So good evening, everybody. We want to welcome you all and thank you all for coming. We're delighted to host here at the Bat Yam Museum one of the prominent figures in contemporary dance, Marten Spanberg. I'll introduce him for people who don't know him. Marten is a performance-related artist living and working in Stockholm. His interests concern choreography in an expanded field, something that he has approached through experimental practices and creative process in multiplicity of formats and expressions. He has been active on stage as performer and creator, and created his own choreographies from solos to larger-scale works, which has toured internationally. Marten has been organizing and curating festivals in Sweden and internationally for over a decade. There are several aspects in Marten's work that we are deeply interested in, but this evening we would like to concentrate on Marten's projects that are related to museums and galleries. We'd like to look at the phenomenon of dance and choreography in museums in general and to hear in details about some of his projects.
Of tools directional to the production of movement in a way that we are familiar with vis-a-vis technically able bodies and so on. But we would, of course, say choreography is an open, in that respect, choreography as a sort of an instrumental knowledge. Choreography is, I disapprove when people SMS when I talk. Choreography is an open cluster of tools that are not directional. And this we can of course not say, right? Tools are always directional. But it's an open cluster of tools, non-directional. They are not there to do something that is determined in the tool. But rather, so in other words, choreography is a knowledge. Choreography is an open set of opportunities both for production and analysis of whatever. And it doesn't say that it is good in organizing and analyzing a lot of things, like the weather, for example. It's maybe better to use a meteorologist or a weatherman, right? But what we should first of all say is that choreography can organize whatever, anything. It's also very good in organizing dance, and we should certainly continue to do this and not walk into some trap of starting to, call ourselves social choreography and stuff like this. But it is important that choreography can organize whatever. And one more thing: if choreography is a field of milieu of, if choreography is a knowledge, it also has one important opportunity, which is that we can understand choreography as as a multiplicity of concept. Not conceptual choreography, but we can set up choreography as a way of forcing us to have new problems. This is something that dance cannot manage, but choreography can be understood as concept in a Deleuzian sense, if that doesn't sound totally constipated, but I can say it like this: choreography can be understood as a systematic imagination that forces us not to think what we already can, but brings us in a certain way into potentiality. Important. So I'm thinking that the museum is. So it not only is the museum necessarily interested in what we are doing, but we should also understand that choreography can expand to be so many more things and produce different modalities of distribution of power, understanding of subjectivity, and because I'm an extremely ambitious person, what choreography carries with it is choreography and dance carries with it, and I think it does in a stronger way than any other art form, is that it carries with it the possibility of doing or thinking or approaching or making different worlds. That's our job, to make propositions that won't change the world, but just because it's there, it has already changed the world, right? And we should think about this with these three changes mentioned before, industrial, you should also say that look, the time for dance is now and soon. 20th century had architects. The future has movement. And who is the boss of movement? Architects, they organize this, they make graves, right? They make graves where they put things. Architects are scared of disorder. That's why they build things where they can put some stuff in orderly fashion, right? We, the next century, is about movement. Who is the boss? This is a choreographer. So, look at that, right? So, president architect is going to be exchanged for president choreographer. So, and our job is to not chicken out and take a step back and say, but you know, I'm a choreographer and I work on stage and I'm like, a little bit like Jean Bell or somebody. Well, no. Stop that and sort of look into and take serious what is contemporary. The life and our society is movement, right? So our job as dancers and choreographers is also to hook with this contemporary, and then it not just be contemporary in our own little petty field, but take contemporary and take this call for fucking serious. Because if we don't do it, somebody else is going to do it for us, and they're not going to pass it back to us when we suddenly realize, aha, it was a good moment, right? So let's be greedy and snatch our territory, claim our territory, and change the world as we are making more of this. Gracias. Okay. Obviously, your most important property today is not your car, your house, or your supermodel girlfriend. Pas du tout. No. Your most important property is your subjectivity. That's what matters today. This is what you work on all the time. So when you go to Ashtanga yoga, you go to get muscly and so on, but you also go because that's part of your identity protocol, right? You go, the way that you have social relationships, amorous relationships, the whole shebang is very much about investing and augmenting and making yourself available as a subject. So with that as an example, we can make two conclusions. So the first, conclusions, did I say conclusions? So we can make two guesses, or two Spanberganisms or something like this. But we can have two thoughts. One would be that the whole society, also the self, also value, has become sort of dancerly. We can say other words, but there is definitely a going on here. Like, it's not what I own. It's not if I have a Volvo or not. What matters here is my dynamic capacities. So how can I move in society? We can also think about this in respect of the museum. I'm thinking that what the museum in its entirety does today is not to sell to you or to the visitor, to sell that you after 2 hours have acquired knowledge about Malevich or Lisitsky or whatever artist or whatever genre or something. But what the reason why we go to the museum is not because of the shows anymore. The reason why we go to the museum is the reason why we go to the museum today is not because of the exhibition, but it is in order to, what the museum sells us is the experience of myself as a cultural consumer, and that experience makes me feel, can one almost say, a little bit more authentic. But there is so the museum sells us, in a way, empty opportunities for movement or transformation. So what the museum has turned from being a display of objects to being the opportunity for you to move vis-a-vis an augmentation or the investment in yourself. And then I find it's kind of funny that what you do when you go to the museum is that you pay the museum to invest yourself in yourself, which becomes a kind of a homeopathic experience. So you heal yourself with yourself. Or I could also think about it as this kind of, in German you call it self-blood doping, right? So that you dope yourself with your own blood. You know, like bicyclists or bicycle people, they go to a mountain and bicycle, and then they take out the blood, and then they go to the down, and then before the competition they pump in the blood that they had upstairs. You know, which has more oxygenation capacity. As a way of, so you don't actually put something in, but it's just a matter of circulating yourself. So that what you do is that you dope yourself with yourself when you go to the museum. The problem is, of course, that the museum doesn't put in anything anymore, so you become more, for every museum visit, you become more and more anemic. You become more and more pale, sucking your own blood, like Saturday after Saturday after Saturday.